So I've had my iMac for a week now, and I wanted to share my thoughts about using this versus my MacBook Air. In this picture, you see an iMac 21.5-inch, which is the model that I have, next to a 13-inch MacBook Pro, which is pretty much the exact same dimensions as the Air as far as screen and whatnot. Now I want you to notice a couple of things right off the bat. First of all, the screen position. You notice on the desk, the iMac, the very bottom of the screen is a good, oh gosh, I'm going to say 7 or 8 inches above the desk, whereas the one for the MacBook Air is pretty much sitting on top of the desk. In order to get the same kind of screen real estate in terms of at least positioning, obviously screen size is screen size, but to get positioning that is similar to the iMac, for the MacBook Air, I would have to take my current stand, which is one of those metal grated stands with the adjustable arm, and adjust it to a full 45-degree angle, which would make typing very difficult. And also, because the footprint is actually bigger than it is on the iMac, because with the iMac, the only thing that takes up space on the physical desk itself is the stand here. There was really no option for me to move the computer back with the MacBook Air to allow for an external keyboard, which meant that having the 45-degree prop was pretty much out of the question. The other thing, though, is screen size. I mean, it's pretty obvious. Here's a 13-inch on the left-hand side, the 21.5 on the right-hand side. After having used the iMac for a week, I don't see myself ever going back to a smaller screen for my next computer, whether it be it a notebook or a desktop. Although personally, I don't see myself leaving the Macintosh anytime soon, only because I've used it for the last 13 to 15 years, and I've got roughly that amount of time invested into Apple's ecosystem. So it only makes sense to make the transition as painless as possible, just to keep going with what you know. But even if I were to get a notebook, it would be nothing smaller than a 17-inch. Unfortunately, at the moment for the Macintosh market, that means you have to go used because they don't have the 17-inch MacBook Pro, which I hope one of these days they bring back. I think that would be really, really nice. But if you're looking for a computer and you have limited usable vision in such a way that you are able to effectively utilize a screen, after having used the iMac for a week, I can conclude with confidence that screen size makes a huge difference. I was able to reduce my magnification level. I'm able to sit up perfectly straight. It's just a huge benefit. Another really cool plus is the keyboard. Now, we take a look here, you'll notice that the Macintosh, the iMac, comes with a wireless keyboard, which is for all intents and purposes the exact same as the one on the MacBook Air. And this is the kind of keyboard that, thanks to my use of the white MacBook as well, before the MacBook Air, I've been using for the last 7 or 8 years. However, this is the keyboard that I use now, and I have to say I'm extremely happy with it.
2:00 a.m.
I've got full-sized arrow keys, a dedicated number pad, USB ports on either side, but the most important thing is the enlarged text. Now, the sellers of the large print keyboard AI Squared also created a skin that can go over the top of the regular Macintosh keyboard, and originally that's what I had asked for because this was a birthday present. But I'm actually glad that I ended up with the full-sized keyboard, because thinking back, I remember I had a skin over the top of my old white MacBook, and that didn't take very long to erode and actually turn yellow and even crack. So I just felt that I'm very glad that I ended up with this, because it's a much better typing experience. The keys are nice and full, even for a notebook. If you have a 17-inch MacBook Pro, I would still advise getting this or something similar to it. It's nice large print, nice full keys, dedicated number row. You even get you even know for sure where things like home and end and your page up and page down keys are, which if you're new to a Macintosh, on the notebooks they don't make that perfectly clear. But in order to perform the same functions that you have here in what they call the 6-pack, it rests between the QWERTY typing and the number row. In order to get that on a notebook, you have to utilize the function key combined with the arrow keys, which again, like I said, they don't make it immediately obvious. They did back in 2003 or 2004 when the original iBooks were around, and the iBook G3 and G4 models, late 90s, early to mid 2000s. But as time went on, and I guess they felt people got used to it, then they eliminated those keys, the description for those keys, which as a result makes the transition for somebody who has never touched a Macintosh in their life, I think would add to the learning curve, but that's just me. Now, these are options here on the Macintosh side. And again, I stress that if you want a larger screen, I would highly recommend going with an iMac. Or if you need a notebook and are willing to look on the used market and don't mind getting something second-handed, then go with a 17-inch MacBook Pro. There is no 17-inch MacBook Pro option, brand new that is. And I think the reason is because the Retina display technology, if they were to plug that into a 17-inch panel, would be astronomically expensive, even for Apple. Now, I know Apple charges a premium for their computers, but you do get what you pay for, and I think that Macintoshes are well worth the investment, but again, this is strictly my opinion. Unfortunately, with the 17-inch LCD panels, or LED panels, excuse me, even for a Macintosh, a 17-inch Retina display would have been far too much. And at the time, the 17 inches were already in the 2100 range. In fact, about 3 years ago, I remember building a 17-incher in another video that I did, and it started at $24.99, and I was trying to future-proof it as best I could, and it took it up to $5,000. My guess is that if they were to put a 17-inch Retina display in the MacBook Pro as it stands today, then the $5,000 price would be what it started at, which I think is just wow. So that's why there's no 17-inch option at the moment. I personally hope it comes back, because for somebody who appreciates a nice big screen, if you want a portable, that's always a good way to go. Me personally, I don't see myself using it, because the 21.5-inch iMac is more than adequate. And I've got things like my iPhone, my iPad, my Chromebook if I want to go portable. But no, I would say, if you're looking for a nice big screen on the Macintosh side, go with an iMac and go with the full-sized AI Squared, or AI Squared is the dealer. I can't remember who actually makes this thing, but talk to AI Squared, get one of these keyboards, whether or not you even get the ZoomText software, but at the very least get one of these keyboards. This is a phenomenal keyboard. It's comfortable. It's, like I said, nice large print, very easy to work with. And you get 2 extra USB ports, which is nice, because on the iMac, the USB ports are in the back. So if you have issues getting back there, then you have 2 extra USB ports, which is nice for things like thumb drives. However, if you are on the Windows side, you get significantly more choice because obviously if you're looking for an out-of-the-box solution, you're basically stuck with Windows. This particular one is one of my favorites. I was researching technology for the state to purchase for me for use either in the education system or in the workplace. And one of the ones that I came across was one of these HP Pavilion 17s. And I liked this because it had very nice specs, comparable to the iMac, in fact. Minus a few inches on the screen size, and obviously the portable factor, the fact that it's a notebook. But it was $699, which I think for a 17-incher that's not a gaming PC was a really nice price. Plus, you can easily tell where the arrow keys are in this because they are very easily discernible by feel. The left and right arrow keys are full-sized, but you come across what would feel like a full-size key with a line in the middle. That immediately tells you that you're on the number row. Plus, you have a nice arrow keys plus the number row has a nice long 0 key, so it's very easily tactily discernible, which I think is a major plus. But the HP Pavilion 17 really won out in my book for screen size because it's a 17-incher. For portability, now obviously it's not going to be as light as one of these ultrabooks like the MacBook Pro, but you know, if you want a notebook and you have a considerable vision loss, screen size is everything. Like I said at the beginning, I would say go with no smaller than a 17-incher. And if you have to go light for physical limitations, say you can't lift all that much, then that's fine. Pick up an external monitor and use that monitor when you're at work. Maybe pick up 2 of them, one to keep at work and one to keep at home. And plug in, because like I said before, screen real estate, very, very important. The more you have in screen size, the more you have to work with, the much more pleasant it's going to be. So 17-incher, so the HP Pavilion 17 is an option. Another option that I found very interesting was this Asus X705JA. And the problem with this one, in my book, is the fact that the number row and the QWERTY keyboard have zero tactile representation in terms of division. The arrow keys, unless you're really careful, you can't tell them apart. If you're just gliding along and you're trying to find your arrow keys, you can very easily end up over in the number row without even realizing it. And you notice here, if we zoom in, this control key here is about the same size as the number row 0 on this HP, which I think Asus has made a deadly mistake, not just for people who are low vision, but if you're talking to people who are fully sighted and they're trying to get work done. Obviously, after a while, you'd learn your way around it. That's fine. But I could see this particular keyboard having a much more significant learning curve. Plus, I haven't really checked out the price on this one. But no, the Asus X705JA is another interesting option to consider. If you want a desktop like an iMac and you're on the Windows side, again, keeping the theme with nice big screens, the Lenovo Idea Center is one of my favorites. So too are all of these quote-unquote portable all-in-ones. And why is that? Well, portable all-in-one may sound like an oxymoron. You're thinking, well, if it's an all-in-one PC, it's big enough, why would I carry it around? Obviously, you wouldn't want to carry it to and from the office, and I don't see TSA even allowing this thing to go through the X-ray. It's just too big. But if you wanted to move, say, from one room of the house to the other, let's say you're up late doing some work and you normally keep your computer in your bedroom and your significant other's asleep, you don't want to disturb them. Well, you can pick this up and take it out because it does have, if you leave it plugged in all the time, it's got a 4 or 5 hour rechargeable battery built in. And you can take this computer and move it into the kitchen and get your work done. And you still have that great, nice big screen, which, again, like I said, paramount if you're shopping for a computer and you have low vision. So you got the nice big screen. You've got the portability, so if you want to move it around the house, you can. There's also another major benefit to having a system like this. Now, I must stress that I do not use, I've never owned one of these. I've only seen them in the stores. But the way my mind works, you would think that if there's a portable all-in-one, it's got a portable battery, you got it plugged in all the time. If you live in an area that is very highly susceptible to power outages, either through natural events or, say, you have maintenance people who are always working, but especially with natural events. Let's say, for instance, you're in an area with a very heavy storm, starts to rain, wind, lightning, what have you, and all of a sudden the power goes out and you need to check on the weather. And your smartphone screen is just too small, or you're trying to give your eyes a break and you want to try to keep the big screen so that you won't have to strain your eyes so much. Well, if you have your smartphone, you can utilize its mobile hotspot and get back online and with the 4-hour rechargeable battery in your all-in-one desktop, you can still be kept up to date with what's going on with the weather and see when the power comes back on. And a lot of people are going to say, well, just get a portable power supply unit or one of those PSUs with a backup battery on board. The way I see it with these portable all-in-ones, it's got one of those built into it, which means less cabling to deal with, which if you have low vision or limited physical abilities, then setting something like that up may not be feasible. But these are the options to consider, and if you are going with a desktop, we take a look again at our options for a nice large print keyboard. Now this is the ZoomText keyboard, but there's also, I've seen this advertised on TV, this large text, this seeing eyes keyboard or whatever it is. The way they advertise it is as if nobody's ever seen this before, which is truthfully, I would say it's the best way to do it because the vast majority of people have not. The majority of people who would use something like this are older, and even with younger people, obviously in our little community we understand, but with people who have never experienced vision loss, never been around somebody with vision loss, something like this would be a breakthrough. So you can see how a company could get away with advertising it as being one of a kind, or however they do it. But no, what I'm getting at is on the Windows side, they also have these large print keyboards. And even if you go for a notebook, like this Asus, I was talking about the lack of tactile discernibility on the keyboard. Well, if you have a nice full-sized keyboard like this one, then you won't need to worry. And especially if you're a ZoomText user or a Magic user, both companies have developed dedicated full-sized keyboards. This is the ZoomText keyboard with nice shortcuts, so you don't have to worry about utilizing your mouse near as much. It's much quicker on the productivity front. Also, if you have a 17-inch notebook like this, you might want to have it on a nice high stand so that you can have the same screen real estate with the screen actually starting several inches off the ground versus having it on the desk like you see here with the 13-inch MacBook Pro. But these are just some personal options that I would consider if I were in the market for a new system. But after having utilized the iMac for the last week, I just couldn't be happier. The screen real estate has made all the difference in the world, and it has really made me reconsider what's important to me in a computer. And from now on, I'm going to put screen size at number one. But what do you guys think? Thank you for watching. Comments are welcome, and have a nice day.